Alright, hi. I don't usually or ever make videos like this, but this is going to be a little bit of an exception here, because this is one of the most baffling things that's ever happened to me in a video game, and I had to figure out why it happens, and I just want to like talk about it and document it somewhere, because I found it so interesting. Whether or not you'll find it interesting, I don't know, but anyway. This is Eggman Hates Furries. This is my speed game. I speedrun this game. Please don't make fun of me. I've been doing speedruns of this game again recently because a few weeks ago someone else decided they wanted to speedrun this game and they took a bunch of my records and I want them back. Not to make it sound like I'm talking bad about this person. I think it's great that someone else decided they wanted to speedrun this game. It's been really cool to see. But anyway, so I've started out recently with doing ILs, and I was doing individual level speedruns of this chapter last night, the Dream chapter. I had gotten a really good time that I wasn't beating anymore, so I decided I'm probably done speedrunning this for now. Let's stick with that time that I got. So I hit stop record on OBS, and I was opening up video editing software to like clip out the part where I got the best time. I still had the game open at this point while I'm managing a bunch of other windows, and at some point one of my keyboard modifier keys got stuck. I think the Alt key. And this is either because of a bug in the keyboard firmware I have that I've like edited the code for myself, or a bug in one of my auto hotkey scripts. I don't know which one. I figured that out at some point later. But anyway, the really easy way to fix a keyboard key getting stuck like this is to just hit Ctrl+Alt+Delete. And bringing that up will just sort of fix any stuck keys for you and just like get rid of those hooks. Very easy way to do that. So I'm gonna hit Ctrl+Alt+Delete right now. You should see that the game has stopped moving. What I see now is that full screen that comes up with options for like lock and sign out and task manager. That comes up. It's a full screen thing. Obviously you can't see this though. And if it's not obvious to you as to why you can't see it, I will be explaining that in detail in a little bit. But so I have this up right now, and all I did was bring it up for a brief moment and then hit escape to get back to the rest of my computer. So I'm going to do that right now. And why am I out of bounds? Why did this happen? This happens consistently. I'm gonna reset the level, Ctrl+Delete, escape, I'm out of bounds. Like, why does this happen? So I had to figure out why. Not the least of the reasons being that I just got out of bounds in my speed game, which is something that is very rarely or never happens in this game. So obviously now I had to go glitch hunting for a little bit. Did figure out exactly why this happens after I thought about it for a while, and then like looked at the game code and did a little bit of testing to confirm my theory. And it makes sense, but it's not intuitive at all as to what's going on exactly. But anyway, so there's clearly something going wrong with the game code here. So why don't we look at the game code? Here it is. This is all the code for all the objects in the game exported into a rich text file from GameMaker. This is a GameMaker game. It's GameMaker 7. And this is a functionality that GameMaker has where you can just export all of the object information into a file. that probably not a lot of people realize is a thing that it can do. I like to use this to look at the code just because it's a whole lot easier than actually poking around GameMaker's slow and bad user interface. Just hit Control F instead of having to, like, you know, go and double click into every single object in the project, which is an absolute nightmare. Anyway, here's all the object code. It starts out with code for Sonic, which is great because Sonic's who we're having problems with right now. It starts out with some general object properties that all objects have. We have a create event. A lot of these items here are not actually code. They're drag and drop events, but there is actual code in here. So we'll take a look at the rest of this object here. Create event, basically just setting up a bunch of variables. We have the step event here, and this is going to have most of the logic for this object. Steps are what GameMaker calls frames, basically. GameMaker is supposed to be a very beginner-friendly piece of software, so it's very easy for little kids trying to learn how to make games to understand what a step is rather than a frame, for kids who never heard that terminology before. I say GameMaker's for beginners. Now GameMaker Studio pretends that it's some, like, you know, professional development piece of software. Is, you know, actually not an like ancient smorgasbord of horrible code and bad practices and architecture for an engine, but that's like way overpriced for what it is. But you know, I don't have opinions on this at all. I do have opinions. GameMaker Studio is bad. Never use it. Step event. Most of the logic in here. We got some stuff for sound, for physics, sprite management, spin dash logic, a little bit of view management. We get down here. Here's a begin step event. This is a different event, but the only code that's in here is moving Sonic relative to his velocity, basically, and the game speed. Global.time is for the slowdown mechanic, like when you defeat bosses and stuff. But yeah, what's important is that this is like displacing Sonic. And the question is, why does it feel like this code is executing when we hit Ctrl+Alt+Delete and then nothing else is? So what's special about this event type exactly then? Well, if we go and look for another instance of it in this project, there aren't very many objects that use this event type, but here's another one. This is the floater object. This is actually the little floating yellow platform in the Hell chapter that floats along the lava and tries to make an auto-scroller. And properties, create sets up a bunch of stuff, including a child object. Destroy also destroys the child object. That's for the collision that it has. And then basically all of its logic, once again, in a begin step event. And that includes right here actually displacing it relative to its velocity again. So we have another object that does sort of the same thing as Sonic does here. So if we go back into the game and we go into this level and we take a look at the platform, there it is. That's it right there. And now we're gonna hit Ctrl+Delete, hit escape, it's gone. It's just vanished. It is no longer of this realm. It's just gone. And again, this happens consistently. It happens every time. Very easy to reproduce. Just go in here, hang out with our platform friend for a little bit. Absolutely nothing weird or unusual is happening. Hit Ctrl+Delete, hit escape, it's gone. It just leaves. Now, granted, of course, we don't need the platform here anyway because we're speedrunners. But you know, if we're speedrunners who don't suck anyway. Are we gonna go back up? Did I manage to get Sonic perfectly stuck on this slope and not moving anymore at all? This is hilarious. I didn't mean to do this. Anyway, I didn't know you could actually get stuck like that. But yeah, so that's weird. Because that's also happening in much the same way as that stuff was going on with Sonic. So, but like, why? Well, let's do a little bit more digging to confirm what's going on. What else has begin step event? This, okay, this is the egg boss. I'm actually not going to show you this as an example because it usually crashes the game, sometimes with math errors, and then it just like hard screws up everything. Memory corruption happens, I think. But here's a different example. This is for Super Eggman. Setup code, some alarm events that don't really do much, and we have, again, a begin step event. And then basically all of the logic for Super Eggman boss is in that event. There are some other little events down here that are actually called from within that earlier code, and then the draw event is for just drawing all the different sprites and stuff off the screen. So we can take a look at that boss too. We go back into the game here. We're gonna go into that chapter. This chapter's really loud. The sound design in this game is not super consistent. So I'm gonna move down, hit Control Delete, hit Escape. All of a sudden you hear Super Eggman just mashing lasers. And he like instantly teleports to where we are. We do this. And then hits us with a laser right away. So clearly all of that logic is going on while the game is frozen. However, clearly logic for Sonic is not happening, because as you saw right there, we heard Super Eggman spamming lasers, but Sonic didn't actually get hit when we got back because the laser wasn't up at the time. So, very, very, very weird. So, what exactly is going on here? Why is Ctrl+Alt+Delete doing this? Let's switch gears for a second. What is a Ctrl+Alt+Delete? And what does it do? Obviously, Ctrl+Delete is a secure attention sequence. It's when you input this on a hardware keyboard, the operating system kernel intercepts that, and well, the kernel can do whatever it wants with it, but in the case of Windows, it uses it as a security feature, because when you hit Ctrl+Delete and the kernel intercepts it, you know that you've now communicated to the operating system kernel directly. The only thing that can get in the way of doing that is kernel rootkits, basically, which aren't exactly a thing that you see very often. But Ctrl+Delete. Okay, here's an example of the kind of screen that it brings up. This is from Windows 8. Windows 10 looks pretty similar though. It's this full screen pop-up, and it's important that it covers the whole screen like this. I'll be explaining why. It didn't used to do this in older versions of Windows, and GameMaker is pretty old. So probably when you were using GameMaker 7, like back in its heyday, and you hit Ctrl+Delete, what you would have seen is a dialog box like this instead. It has all the same options on it. It's called the Windows Security dialog box. So this is basically the same thing, but it used to behave a little bit differently, right? And the reason that it covers the full screen in Windows 8 isn't just because they like to make stuff like the start menu and things cover the whole screen now. That's not why they did this. I'm gonna get into the why in a bit here. I swear this is important. I'm not talking about Windows security designed for just no reason. So when did this start becoming a full screen thing? The answer is Windows Vista. What other security features does Windows Vista introduce? Because it actually introduces quite a few. It was part of why it was a little bit divisive at the time, of course. But the user account control was probably the most prominent thing. Because now your operating system is nagging you about security all the time, which people didn't like. But, you know, computer security isn't exactly just like fun in games all the time. So how does UAC work? Well, by default, and you can change this if you need to, if you're having like compatibility problems or whatever. But by default, UAC asks for credentials and permissions within a secure desktop mode. What is a secure desktop? So the user desktop is, you know, there's this desktop where you have all of your user applications and stuff. A secure desktop is a desktop that the Windows operating system has itself created and is managing. The only processes that can interface with the secure desktop are privileged operating system processors running with system level privileges. And system being a permissions level that's actually above administrator, and definitely above like a normal user permissions. So the secure desktop, only the OS can like do stuff with it basically, and this is to prevent spoofing types of attacks from like user-land applications. When you hit Ctrl+Alt+Delete and you get a secure desktop that comes up, you know that no other applications on your computer can draw things on top of that screen, and you know that you are interfacing with the operating system directly because no other applications can get involved with your inputs. They can't modify your mouse or keyboard inputs or anything while you're on that screen. Again, it's a security feature to make sure you and the operating system are communicating directly, and there's absolutely nothing in the middle like messing around with this. So, and this is important because this means that also user-land applications cannot read what inputs you're doing while you're on that screen either. The other thing that uses secure desktop is actually the lock screen. So when you're on that like user sign-in screen, or you're switching users, that's also a secure desktop screen that comes up, and nothing else can do anything with it. If you've ever used like auto hotkey and stuff, you've probably noticed that you can't ever use any auto hotkey stuff while you're on a secure desktop screen. You can't read your inputs, and you can't like do any inputs. Again, this is all by design. It's a core fundamental of the Windows operating system security model in modern versions of the operating system. And so I tested, and all three versions of this secure desktop that you commonly invoke, being the lock screen, UAC prompt, and the Ctrl+Alt+Delete Windows security screen, they all make Eggman hates furries clip Sonic out of bounds. But why does the UAC make Sonic clip out of bounds? Why would it do this? And alright, so to explain this, we're gonna switch gears a little bit again. Let's look at the GameMaker documentation over here. So this is the help file that comes with GameMaker, and we're having problems with events right now because some events are executing but others are not. So what does the manual say about events here? Well, it explains what they are conceptually, explains how to use them and stuff. It goes through what all of the different types of events are, but then at the very bottom here, it details the execution order for events within the GameMaker engine. and it's this list right here from top to bottom. It starts at the top. It starts with begin step events. These are the very first events that the game processes on every loop of the game logic. And then alarm events happen. I don't know how important this is. I don't know, because there's a timer aspect to it. I don't know if these are happening at all, or if they're repeating, or they just happen once. I don't know. It's not as important for this purpose, though. What is important is that the next thing that's here in the execution order is all of the input events for the keyboard and for the mouse. So, I mentioned before, GameMaker's kind of old. In fact, GameMaker 7 is the first version of GameMaker that works properly under Windows Vista. So Windows Vista, which introduced, if not the concept of secure desktop, then most of the uses of it at the time. So this was a very new concept at the time. So what all of this means, you might be realizing this already. This is my theory. I would be surprised if any of the fundamentals of this theory are wrong. There might be some details that are wrong, but basically, what I understand to be happening is that when the execution order in GameMaker is going through this list, and then it reaches the keyboard and mouse events, and it tries to pull the operating system APIs for inputs, and then those inputs respond with access denied, which is not something that they're going to be doing most of the time, and possibly not something that they ever really did before. GameMaker gets very confused about this. And GameMaker being confused is bad, because GameMaker just wants to be this very beginner-friendly piece of game-making software, and they don't want to have users deal with, complications with interfacing with the operating system, making their games crash, and they don't know why it's happening. So GameMaker wants to do its very best to hide that it's having any problems right now. So when GameMaker gets an unexpected response from the operating system when it's trying to pull for inputs, I believe GameMaker has a failsafe in place. And that failsafe is that the execution just kind of stops. It doesn't even get to the bottom down here where there's some unwritten stuff for waiting for the next screen blank before executing the game logic again. No, as soon as it encounters a problem here, it's just like, well, I'm out, and it goes back to the start of the loop again and executes these begin step events again. But when it restarts, it doesn't revert the game state at all. Everything that executed here already still has canonically happened and has affected all of the objects that it would normally. But then it just executes again and again and again. It starts looping through this as fast as it can through these two event types while it's failing to pull the operating system for inputs while the secure desktop is active. And so, as we saw before, the end result of this is that the Sonic object ends up only executing code where it moves. It doesn't even execute anything for colliding with anything else. And not even gravity or anything takes place. It just moves really fast in whatever direction it was already moving in. And so once you piece all of it together like this, it makes some amount of sense. Of course, it's absolutely stupid and idiotic that it works this way. You should never have a game engine that's architected to work the way that GameMaker does. It's a bad idea. But that is what's happening right here. And so we have this game now where we can just hit Ctrl+Alt+Delete and just sort of phase through whatever we want. when I was talking to my friends about this, being like, hey, I figured out hitting Ctrl+Delete makes me clip out bounds in my video game. This is pretty weird. They're like, well, you could use that for speed tech. Use it for using speedrunning. You could do this. I'm gonna try to demonstrate here for you a sec. This is, I'll do my best. This is very hard to control, but I'm gonna try to phase through this wall right here by using this. All right. Yeah, I went really far over to the right as soon as I did that. But I am on the other side of this wall now. Line collisions in this game are paper thin, but they are solid on both sides. So I'm just over here now. And if I go to the right, we have over. Yep, this is where the trigger for loading the next chapter is. As you saw, all of a sudden this other stuff in here just like spawned in. This game dynamically generates most of its terrain. So like this doesn't exist until I get to a point in the level that's going to trigger this next chapter to come up. From this chapter to the next, hitting the trigger to autosave and load the next chapter is actually purely position-based. As soon as Sonic is far enough to the right, the autosave triggers, and so if I just move to the right, hit Ctrl+Delete, hit Escape, I've hit the autosave point for the next chapter. And now I'm gonna spawn up here next to the next boss. There it goes. And like, this sucks. This is like, I hate this a lot. 'Cause just like, yeah, sure, it's a way to, you know, get out of bounds in this game, but so until recently, I was literally the only person who ever did speedruns of this game, and so I'm the only person in control of the speedrun.com page for it. I'm not going to allow this in speedruns, and I'm not even going to make a separate category for it, and I'll explain why. Like, getting this bug to manifest requires interacting with the computer's operating system's security features in a very intrusive way that just shouldn't be required by any speed game. It's just, and also it's really hard to control, like, inherently, because you have to hit Ctrl+Delete to bring this up, and so like that's not like a fun game input by itself, but you can't very easily control how long you're on the secure desktop for before you get back into the user desktop, and the speed at which the begin step code is executing while you're on the other desktop depends on how fast your computer processor is. So the faster your computer is, the more uncontrollable this is inherently. So there's all these technical reasons why it's just inaccessible and just bad. It's just not a good idea. But also, even beyond all of these technical reasons, the other thing is that it's not serializable, I guess would be the word, right? Because if you did a tool-assisted speedrun of this game, you couldn't use this quote-unquote tech at all, because you can't task interfacing with the operating system kernel on a hardware level to bring up a security screen. You can't do that. It's just stupid. And also, even besides the technical reasons, it's just not technical or cool to watch. In fact, there's nothing to watch while you're doing this trick because the whole game freezes. And it's not technical. It's not like, you know, Breath of the Wild where you gotta like do like physics skew clips to like fit through the wall, or like Super Mario 64 where you do these crazy backwards long jumps into parallel universes. There's nothing cool there. All you do is you hit Ctrl+Alt+Delete and you go through the freaking wall. Like, it's just not interesting. And also, because of the way that the game dynamically generates its terrain as you're going through it, chapter by chapter, as you saw, you can't use this to like wrong warp into the final room of the game or anything, or like teleport, you know, across the map, or like clip through to reach like the end part of the game or something, because it hasn't even spawned in yet. You can only advance like chapter by chapter, and most chapters this trick isn't going to like really do anything for you. But the ones that it does work, as you saw with my demonstrations, you just like skip a bunch of platforming just outright, or you skip literally the entire chapter by just hitting the next autosave trigger, and then like, you know, you'd quit out to the menu and like go back to the next autosave that you just unlocked to keep going. So it's not like cool. There's not really a lot of out of bounds navigation going on that you might see in like some of the game. I don't know, like Kingdom Hearts, where you like grab the ledge the wrong way and then you have to like do like use a whole bunch of driver covers to like hover through out of bounds to reach your door. Nothing like that. So just like skipping entire parts of the game outright isn't like fun or cool. Like it all just sucks. It sucks that Game Maker does this, and it sucks that it has this effect on this game, but I don't think it's good for speedruns, and I just don't think it's, you know, just like a thing to do for a speed game. Just don't. But this is one of the more fascinating things that's ever happened to me with a video game, where I hit Ctrl+Delete and I just clipped straight out of bounds. I could actually stand to explain why that was happening the way that it was specifically in this level, because unlike with other parts of the game, where if you're standing still as Sonic and you hit Ctrl+Delete, just nothing happens because there's no movement for that code to displace you by. When you're in this chapter, the way that the gravity here is working is that it's applying its own force onto Sonic instead of like gravity, sort of. So it's constantly pushing Sonic away from the center here. And even when Sonic is on the ground here and it looks like he's not moving, he technically still has velocity. So then when you hit Ctrl+Delete, and there's no more collision code going on, but that velocity is still there to displace Sonic by, Sonic's gonna, you know, all of a sudden go out of bounds. Obviously. It totally makes sense now, but obviously not at the time when I encountered this for the first time. I was like, what the heck is happening? So, I hope that was an interesting journey to go on. It certainly was for me. But yeah, I'm not going to be using this in speedruns. I am going to be doing more of this game as a speed game. I'm going to take it a little bit more seriously now. And I'm probably going to start streaming like full game runs when I get to them. I used to stream on Mixer, but I guess Mixer doesn't exist now. So I guess I would just use YouTube, because I have YouTube anyway. I'm not going to use Twitch. Twitch is bad. I don't like Twitch. But anyway. Yeah. If you want to see the ILs that I'm doing, I might put a playlist on my channel that has all the videos unlisted in it. I'm not going to make all those videos public and like clog up my whole channel with just Eggman Hates Furries ILs, because, you know, there is other stuff on here. Not like a lot of other stuff. It's been a long time since I sort of used this YouTube channel for a lot of the stuff that I used to, but you know, whatever. But yeah, you can look at. I'll probably put a playlist up if you want to see those, or you can look at the speedrun.com page. If you follow the game on speedrun.com, that you can get notifications whenever new records get posted and stuff. That's speedrun.com/EHF for Eggman Hates Furries, all lowercase. But yeah. Thanks for watching. All right, stay fresh.